Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Buxton Barrow Man, where I go through Buxton's history and clean up the town at the same time. On a previous episode I talked about the history of Pavilion Gardens, which is most certainly the most popular and well-known park in Buxton, but we do have a fair few more. So today I'll be talking about the history of Ashwood and Sylvan Parks. Starting with Ashwood and before the railway arriving in 1863, it was a part of a private residence. This residence was Wye House, named after, well, the River Wye, a bridge, and a house. It's recorded the house, back in 1851, was once home to a William Altair, his wife and 5 household staff, as well as a gardener and his wife who lived in Wye Cottage within the current park. Once the railways had arrived, Buxton started to boom, and so the Wye House became the Midland Hotel, named of course after the Midland Railway line that sits above. And the Midland was advertised back in the day to have its own picturesque grounds, and of course they weren't lying. The Buxton Development Corporation, who built the Pavilion Gardens, knew the 2.5 acre site was perfect for another public park, and so in 1921 they purchased the land from the Midland and began developing a new park for the ever-growing Buxton. And it looked stunning, with a wide range of facilities, paths that were winding their way around and over the River Wye, bandstands and tennis courts. Of which I didn't know much about when making the Pavilion Garden video, but there is a rumour that Buxton started the lawn tennis championships. Rather interesting if true, and it's certain that Buxton was a huge contributor to the sport. When people were arriving in the late 1800s to take in the waters of Buxton, people often partook in sporting activities as well. A sport called that, essentially tennis, appeared in 1873 in Leamington Spa and caught on in Buxton big time. It became so big a tournament was held in 1880, and year after year it kept growing. But at the same time, in a little known place known as Wimbledon, yeah, I've never heard of it either, but they had a tournament too, and in 1951 Buxton stopped their tournaments, and this Wimbledon one still goes on today. It's also interesting to note that Buxton held both men's and women's tournaments from the get-go, which is rather odd for the late 1800s. But back to Ashwood. Over time these facilities changed and modernised in a way, but you can make your own judgment if that's a good or a bad thing. As you can see, the park isn't what it used to be. But the only part of the park that still holds up today is the Midland Hotel, which got renamed back to the Wye Bridge and changed into the nation's most well-known pub franchise, Wetherspoons. I can say though, the park does have one new feature. Just beside a newer park by Spoons and the croquet green is Jack the Quarryman, a lovely nod to our quarrying history in Buxton. Now going back to the start, I said I would talk about Sylvan Park, and for those of you like myself born after 2000, it's a name seldom spoke of. It could be the name of this bus stop, however that does seem to change from time to time, and a car park. But it was once an actual park, some green space. History of the park is so hard to find that I can only tell you that the park was roughly around from the mid-1800s to I believe the 1960s, but again I can't find any history, just some lovely pictures, which as you can see is certainly a shame, because I know I'd rather have this over this. As Joni Mitchell once sang, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot." I hope you've enjoyed today's video. It's been a bit of a busy week, so as much as I wanted to clean up the gardens, as it made sense due to this video, I hadn't the time, but I did make start on something else. I did some conservation work for one of my mates in Hope Valley on their farm to build hedgeland habitat.
Well, there she is, that's today's mission.
Yay! It's quite long, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's about 200 now.
230-ish, I think.
Lovely.
cannons. It's PED 20. 3 years ago.
I think I might just mute the audio.
But that's pretty much it from this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, ta-ra.
Edge.
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 I can keep that audio in.
Oh no.